Hi everyone, this is Samantha, and I uploaded a video for my Genogram. Um, so I started with a key down at the bottom, triangles for ALS, the star is for drugs and alcohol, the minus is for cheated, the division symbol is for divorce, the circle is for depression, and the square is for abusive. So we'll start off with my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side. My grandfather's name was Frank, and my grandmother was Stella. My grandfather's passed away now, but when my mother was a child, my father drank a lot, and he would go out and cheat on my grandmother all the time. There's even rumors that they named, it's kind of strange, but some of their children after some of the women he had an affair with. And so I don't know why he stopped drinking, but he eventually did, and they had more of a semblance of a family. And they had 10 kids. So my grandmother didn't have much of a marriage most of her life, and she didn't have a very good childhood either. She was raised by her grandparents. Her mother was murdered, and that's kind of a mystery in itself because nobody really knows what happened. And I've tried to do some research on it, but I've been unable to find out anything, even be able to find it in the newspapers on what happened. So it's kind of a mystery that keeps me curious. Maybe one day I'll figure it out. But they had 10 kids. Bill was the youngest. There's Frankie, Kenny, Ernie, Donnie, Tommy, Philip, Christine, Jean, and then there's my mother, Gerald. Like I said, the stars are signs of alcohol or drug abuse. So my Uncle Bill, he liked to drink a lot, and he smoked pot for a time, but he's kind of laid off both of those now, and he's been married, I think it's 3 times now, and he's not even 40 yet, and he's currently divorcing again. And then there's Frankie. He's been in and out of jail several times, pretty much all his life, for drug abuse and theft. He likes to steal things. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and if you need anything from him, he'll help you. But he's always done drugs. And he's raised his son to be just like him. His son's been in jail on and off since he was probably 16 years old. And has become even worse than his dad. And then there's my Uncle Kenny. He's one of the most normal ones in the family. He's always worked hard. He's never done drugs. He's never really drank, just maybe social drinking. And then there's my Uncle Donnie. It's kind of hush-hush, but he took pills for a while. And then there's my Uncle Ernie. He's also done drugs, mainly pot. He does that a lot. He's also divorced, and he's only been a part-time father, really. I love him to death, but he's not someone you can really rely on very often. Then there's my Aunt Christine. She has done drugs since I can remember. My mom had to raise her daughter pretty much her whole life, so she's more like a sister to me than a cousin, which I loved her being with us. But I felt so bad for her that she didn't have her mom to be able to count on. And there's my Uncle Tommy. He's also a really hard worker, but he likes to drink. I think that's kind of calmed down after he's had some problems with his health, like heart attacks and heart issues, that kind of thing. And he's also been divorced, but he's still civil with his ex-wife and his child's mother. There's my Uncle Philip. He passed away when I was a child. I was probably 13 or so. He was in jail, so several of my aunts and uncles, I guess, have been incarcerated. He had a massive heart attack and he didn't survive. So he also did drugs. And then there's my Aunt Jean. This is a person I always count on to give me advice. She has no real health issues. She's had I take that back. She's had a minor stroke, but she has been through a divorce. And then we come to my mother, Gerald. who's also been divorced from my father, and that happened when I was about 13, I guess. And it should have came as a shock to me because they never really fought, but I never had a problem with it. I always knew that they loved each other and they loved me, but they weren't in love with each other anymore, is what they told me as a child, and I was okay with that. So we still went to family functions together. My dad still comes over to my mom's side of the family, anything that we do. And I know my dad's called my mom to borrow money before when situations arise. So they're still friends. And my mom has had a little bit of depression. It's not severe. She's been on medicine for it, but she kind of took herself off of it because it only comes in spurts. I don't really know how that works, but I always remember her being happy. She gets a little overwhelmed at times, but I think everybody does. So I'm not really sure if she even needs it or not. But and then we go over to my dad's side of the family. His dad's name was John, and his mother's name was Para. John was also a very heavy drinker, and he abused Para. Para passed away before I was born, when my sister was really little. So it was about 6 years before I was born. She died of Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS. So she was paralyzed for a good portion of the end of her life. And I would hear stories about her just laying there, and all she could do was cry as John would yell at her and tell her to stop crying and to shut up. I can't imagine how she felt or what she went through. It breaks my heart in two. They also had 10 brothers and sisters, but I can't remember all their names. I do remember Ted, Buck, Elsie, Aline, Sylvie, and then there's my dad, Daryl. I would have gotten all that information, but my father has been on vacation. I haven't been able to get in touch with him. I know Ted died of cancer, and then everybody else is still living. Elsie, I know she's been through divorce, and my dad, of course, is divorced from my mother. And then from that, there is me. I've been pretty healthy my whole life. No major illnesses or sicknesses. And I'm a pretty happy person. I like to look on the bright side of things, and when stuff gets stressful, I call and talk to my Aunt Jean or my mother, and they help me through it, and I rely on my husband. And that's my family genogram. Thank you.